It's an untold story. It's a story that you don't learn about in the history books. It's a story that they're not teaching in the classrooms. And yet it is where the American Revolution was won, right here in our backyards.
I've thought about this many times. What was it that motivated a man to leave his home and walk for almost 2 weeks in order to chase down a British-led group and then to get my rifle and shoot at them? It took quite a bit of determination on their part, and also, I'm sure, fear of what might happen if they did not take this very dangerous duty, because Ferguson had threatened to come into their country and hang their leaders and to destroy their farms with fire and sword.
They were men and families that really settled the back country of what was, at that time, the frontier of the colonies. With the advance of the British and the threats made by Patrick Ferguson, it was not something they were going to sit around and wait to have happen.
By those early patriots, they came out of the mountains, ended up at Kings Mountain, and faced possible death in their effort to get rid of the enemy. It resulted in a victory for the Patriot side over Major Patrick Ferguson.
It was really the first victory in the Southern campaign that really spirited up the troops and the people of the backcountry to take up arms against the king.
Thomas Jefferson himself said that this was the turning point in the final outcome a year later. If it had not been for the victory at Kings Mountain, we very well could be speaking the King's English now instead of good old American. The trail that was used is a significant part of that whole story. So we need to preserve it and to make sure that future generations know what happened there 200 and odd years ago.
We're just really, really proud of that history, and that really gives people reason to get involved. To be able to get out of your car and get on the historic trail and follow the footsteps of the Overmountain men, there's a sense of pride that I did not have before, in that not only are we going to have a beautiful trail, but it's going to draw people that want to come and learn about the history that happened there. It's going to be a very nice trail that will link Spruce Pine to the Blue Ridge Parkway and allow people to get outside and get some exercise and really come in contact with nature in a way that maybe they couldn't before this trail existed.
A lot of people didn't know that the trail actually went through this area, and then to find out that it went through our property a couple of times, to be able to give back a little portion of that for people to be able to use it and understand some of the heritage and know what was going on, that's very exciting on our part.
Our goal is to eventually have the 330 miles that these men marched on the ground that people can walk all the way from Abingdon, Virginia, and Wilkesboro all the way down to Kings Mountain National Military Park.
A trail like this would be pretty neat to have. I mean, at Sabelco, we like to give back to the community. I mean, we like to see people using the creeks for fishing, walking. I've got a 9-year-old boy that I know would love to walk this, and while he's walking it, telling the history about it.
Wherever you go now, people are discovering that greenways and walkways are really a healthy attraction for visitors. Fortunately, most of this trail is not going to be out in the open. It's going to be through woods. Should be a very invigorating place to be. The trail, of course, was totally covered over and now just has to be sort of reimagined and relocated as close to historically accurate as we can.
When the trail was established, it was basically established as a corridor of any property that's within a half a mile either side of what we know is the actual historic trail bed.
Well, I would encourage property owners to take a close look at this because of its importance from a standpoint of preserving history as well as scenic preservation.
Part of the requirements of becoming a certified section of the Overmountain Victory National Historic Trail is that the owner agrees that that portion of the trail that can be utilized to help tell the story will be undeveloped.
My mother and father owned some land that was in part of the original trail. It was a place that was used during a lot of the reenactments early on. You know, it's nice to be able to contribute to that and keep that going and keep that history alive, and then make this available to local citizens, visitors, tourists, everybody coming in. It's always a good thing.
We have outdoor recreation here. We're proud of our parks. We've got beautiful areas to hike around here.
The interconnectedness to McDowell County with Mitchell County and Burke makes us part of a regional look and allows us to look at things in a larger perspective.
Any good thing that happens in your town is absolutely a community effort. It's got to be received by the community, then it's got to be carried out by the community.
I think the greatest benefit for an individual is really the legacy that that leaves. The opportunity to provide for the future generations. But you know, sometimes it's just not the right thing for a particular landowner, and that's okay. That's why the corridor is a mile wide. It allows opportunities for people to engage or not engage. The bottom line is that we want everybody that's involved in this to come to this of their own will and knowing that this is their thing. To keep this story alive, the story of the Over Mountain Men,